depending on what your opponent's unit composition is. The one thing I wish I had gotten earlier was Ghosts, because Ghosts are so good against Protoss in almost any manner, especially if they're getting High Templars. And you guys can see I'm lacking on my scouting a little bit here. I'm not quite exactly sure what my opponent is getting, but now that my upgrades for my Marines and Marauders are done, Stimpack Shields, Concussive Shells, I am going to push out and control this central watchtower. And the one thing I want to reiterate, you do want to get the Ghosts, and I just don't have Ghost Academy down right now. I kind of just forgot about it, but that is one thing you do want to get. And the nice thing is, with all these tech labs on these barracks, you can pump out Ghosts as well as Marauders. As you guys can see, continuing to keep the macro up, making sure I'm not supply blocked too heavily at any point in the game. Also throwing down more barracks as well, because once you've got 2 bases fully mining, you're going to have all of this income. Also securing my 3rd expansion, and that's part of the push out strategy. Push out, control the center ground, so that you can control the lanes between the gold and the natural. And now I am going to lift off that command center and take control of that gold expansion. And getting a little bit of a scan down on my opponent's Protoss base. You guys can see he does have Templar Archives, and that should have been a key indicator right there that my opponent was getting Templars, High Templars for Psystorm, and I really should have gotten some Ghosts right here. But here we go, going to be an engagement at the center of the field, and I'm microing away a little bit using Stimpaks because I saw my opponent has High Temps. Don't want to get caught out of position with Storm landing on your infantry. That's a very, very bad position to be in. And so you guys can see here, getting that Ghost Academy down in reaction. It should have been a little bit sooner, but better late than never. And the real reason why you want to get these Ghosts is so that you can EMP the Protoss army, especially those High Templars. You don't want them to storm your infantry. That is the one unit that can really put a damper on Marine Marauders, and especially if they get force fields to lock your units in position. So anyways, getting that Ghost Academy down, and of course I already have the tech labs to support getting Ghosts out of the barracks. You guys can see I also have a sensor tower down where that Xel'Naga watchtower is. It's a very nice position to put the Xel'Naga or the sensor tower there, and you can see a much larger range of where your opponent is and where he's starting to move his forces. Also getting those upgrades for the Ghost, getting the Mobius reactor first, and continuing to pump out forces. And here we go. My opponent, for some reason, throwing down force fields, but I am going to engage. This force field is going to help me a little bit here, I think. And of course, his Templars are lagging behind a little bit. And every time you engage, you do want to use your Stimpaks. They help so much in battle. And as soon as the Psystorms start to land, that is when you want to retreat. Get away from the Psystorms, because that will crush your infantry so fast and so hard you won't even have time to blink or think about it. But you do want to stim when you engage your opponent and keep those dropships healing your infantry. If you guys can see my hotkeys right now, I am using 5 for my command centers. I'm using 3 for all my buildings that have reactors. That means my 2 barracks with reactors as well as my starport with reactor. And I'm using 4 for everything with a tech lab, which means all my barracks with tech labs. I'm not really using my factory, but you know, whatevers. And for my hotkeys for my army, I am using 1 for all of my infantry, and I'm using 2 for my dropships. That is pretty much how I play Terran. That's how I use my hotkeys. It keeps me organized, and one big thing for me as a StarCraft player is organization. I really like to know that my army is organized. I can use it and move it whenever I need to in the manner that I need to most. And so that's how I think when I play. But every player has their own little niche, their own little strategy. But as you guys can see at this point in the game, continuing to macro up. I have 3 bases right now. I'm still somewhat ahead of the Protoss player in terms of economy. I have a much stronger production in my opinion. And now that I've got Ghosts, my army composition is well-rounded enough to deal with anything that the Protoss can throw at me. And it's really going to just come down to micro at this point. The basic tutorial is pretty much over. It's all at this point just micro. Get your EMP shockwave off on the Protoss army before they can Psystorm. Get your stims off. Maneuver your infantry away from the Psystorms, and of course continuing to macro back at home. Alright, so you guys can see I am just continuing to control the center position of the map. The Protoss player looks like he has a third expansion as well. And here's where you can be a little bit tricky with your Marine Marauders. Don't ever forget that your medvacs are also dropships. So why not elevator a couple of them into the Protoss main? That's exactly what I was thinking at least. And I'm going to drop a couple of them off, leave my main bulk of my army behind right here. And the reason why I'm doing this is to pull the Protoss army back because he's going to have to defend. And with this, I can do a two-pronged attack. He's going to be pulling back. I have the Ghost in front. I can EMP, and there we go, landing a great EMP off on some of the temps. Meanwhile, controlling the frontal attack force from the drop as well, and getting a couple of good EMPs off on that Protoss army. And with that, I'm just going to basically use my EMPs and fall back into the dropships and run away. And now my main force can attack the Nexus unimpeded and take it down with a quick stim. So that's what you can do. You can really, with the medvacs, use a lot more mobility with the Terran army. And you guys can see now my Protoss opponent is really caught out of position. He's lost his Nexus. And it's just real nice at 3M, the Marine Marauder medvac, because you can use medvacs to increase the mobility of your otherwise immobile Terran army. And here we go, just gonna push forward into the gold, and pretty much with the stim packs, 3M is just so strong, and so my opponent is going to leave the game. And that is a basic tutorial video on how to execute the Barracks FE into 3M transition. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that tutorial video, and we are going to go ahead and take a look at the post-game analysis where we will analyze the build order in more detail. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is going to be the post-game analysis where we are going to analyze the build order for the Barracks FE into 3M transition versus Protoss. And as you guys can see, getting just pumping out SCVs, getting a supply depot on 10 supply, very standard opening, nothing too different here. Getting the barracks on 12, very standard. Orbital command as soon as your barracks finishes on 15. I do pump out a couple of Marines just to hold off any scouting workers, and I do throw a command center right on 17 supply. Getting this command center down, I get it before the supply depot, and the reason for that is because you're not going to supply block yourself. If you guys actually test these numbers out, I found this to be the most optimal. So go ahead and get your command center at 17, get your supply depot right after that, and then the essence, the core essence of the Barracks FE is to throw down 3 barracks right after that command center goes down. As soon as you have the money, get your barracks out. And so you guys can see, I'm getting barracks, 1 barracks here at 415, 1 barracks at 445, 1 barracks at 449, for a total of 4 barracks. Once the 4 barracks are down, you get your refinery. You get the refinery so you can start mining gas, getting tech labs, researching stim packs and shields for Marines. And if you see a robotics facility, which could mean Immortals or Colossus, then you do want to get Marauders. It's all in flexibility. It's very adaptable. You can get Marines if you don't see Colossus, or if you see Colossus, then you can get Marauders. So it's very open, it's very flexible, and you can do what you like with it. Eventually you do want to, this is just basic pump out Marines, eventually you do want to secure that natural expansion with bunkers. I threw down 3 that game because I saw my opponent was going for some kind of a 4-gate build, and there could have been a lot of pressure, so I did throw down 3 bunkers at the front door, and I do get a couple tech labs out, as I said before, for those researches. And as we just go down here, eventually you do want to get more refineries, you know, just easy transition into more barracks, more units, getting that factory for the reactor and swapping it onto the starport so that you can pump out medvacs. And really, that's the basic opening build order, as you guys can see. Nothing too fancy. The core essence of it all, you guys can always, of course, change the numbers around, whatever you guys feel most comfortable with. But the core essence of the Barracks FE is getting a barracks, getting command center, throwing 3 more barracks, getting a refinery, getting 3 bunkers out at the front, 2 or 3, and basically securing that. The pros of a Barracks FE into 3M transition: a lot more economy than the Protoss player. You can start to pump out more units. You don't have to depend on one base. It's very macro-ish. It's very very defensive, so to say, and I like that kind of play for Terran. It tends to lend itself into less cheesy strategies and more economy-based builds that have more epic battles. So That's a very, very crucial build order for Terran players against Protoss. A lot of pros use it, so I do recommend you guys to practice it if you're a Terran player. And that's going to be pretty much the 1Rax FE build order. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial video, and stay tuned for more. I'll have hopefully some more Zergs and Protoss videos to come in the near future. Thanks a lot, guys. HD, signing out.